Well, they were. It was a marriage because till today we still have dill pickles.
Because pickle is like the olden days
cramps.
creatine. Oh. Have a pickle, I'm telling you. Just drink the juice. Because...
I winked today. It's all the excitement from the pickles.
Hello and welcome back to Gobs and Goblets with me, Maddie.
And me, Hannah.
So on today's episode, we're actually going to be looking at one of our... That's on my notebook. I had to move my foot.
Hannah! Be looking at pickles.
We will be looking at pickles, one of my favourite foods, but I don't really like wearing them on my feet, funny enough. For me, pickles, well, last week we had McDonald's.
Yep.
And my favourite thing in a Big Mac, or any burger really, or even from McDonald's, is just the pickle itself. Like, if I could just get pickles from McDonald's, I would rather do that, but you win some, you lose some. So yeah, we decided to have a look into that today, and you know, Hannah's got her own experience of
Pickles have been quite a sad thing for me. I love pickles. I love a pickle, but I don't love being in a pickle, and I have been in a pickle recently, and like, you know, just every time I saw pickles the other day in a store and they just reminded me of something and I just broke down crying. So anyway, we're all about, you know, New Year, you know, it's January, we're keeping with those, you know, changing things up. So I want to recreate new good memories about pickles. And my God, the memories we've heard, the history.
Oh, you're in for a treat,
You're in for
guys.
a big treat. Oh my gosh.
So without further ado, I think we should get started. Our first stop on this historical adventure is 2400 BC Mesopotamia. Pickling has been a very common and very used practice throughout human history, and the Mesopotamians were supposedly the first ones to do it, according to archaeologists. It's not exactly known, but that's their guess. So far in Gobs and Goblets, we haven't really talked about Mesopotamia at all. And do you know what? I think we need to give credit where credit is due. I went into a bit of a spiral learning about them yesterday, and blimey, they've given so much to us. It was really interesting. So we're going to credit a couple of things that the Mesopotamians have done for mankind. First of all, 60 seconds. Where do you think that comes from? Mesopotamia. 60 minutes and an hour. Where do you think that also comes from? Mesopotamia. 360 degrees in a circle. Who came up with that? Mesopotamians. If you haven't grasped already, they're pretty good at maths. So I don't really like maths. I'm not really that thankful for it. But they were the whole mathematicians. They started the whole trend. They then used the maths that they had to go into astronomy. And they did the first research about the stars. And they were the ones that figured out constellations, which were then taken by the Greeks, and then they changed it into sort of how we know it today. Anyway, but they're the original star sign girlies. I'm a Libra, Hannah's a Gemini. What are you?
Where is Mesopotamia? Just for...
So Mesopotamia is in the Middle East. It goes across 3 countries today, the middle one being Iran. So yeah, it was quite a small plain of land in comparison to other empires at the time, but it, you know, a very fertile land, so it really did thrive.
It's about quality, not quantity.
Amen, and you can take that with you for the rest of your life. They also came up with 7 days a week, so each day of the week was a different god. This is not really anything major, but it is to me. They had the Gardens of Babylon, which I've seen so many times, and it's like the most beautiful place ever. Like, if I could time travel to any given time, I probably would be Viking eras or medieval times. But apart from that, I would love to go on a date in the gardens of the Babylon Garden. Anyway, and on top of that, this is just a separate little story. So when I was in Berlin, I only just put 2 and 2 together yesterday, but I was looking at the Gardens of Babylon, and I was looking at the Gate of Babylon, and I thought, blimey, I've seen this before. I started thinking maybe I've had past lives. No, I hadn't. They just done a recreation of it in one of the museums in Berlin.
Oh.
So whilst everybody else wanted to go out clubbing and dancing, I was throwing a strop and taking myself around the museums because the person I was with really did my head in. But that's drama for another day. Anyway, and then the most important thing that Mesopotamia did was they created the pickle. Yay! And so Mesopotamia, 2400 BC, a couple of centuries later, when they were still thriving, they then also got cucumbers involved. So cucumbers originally are from India, but somehow they ended up in the Tigris Valley. I probably should have looked into how that happened, but we're just going to call it expansion, broadening horizons. So they were the first people to supposedly pickle cucumbers. And we still eat that today. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, next on our list, 50 BC, we have Hannah's one and only true queen, Cleopatra, come into play.
Yes.
Because as we know, Hannah is a massive fan of the Egyptians. Yep. Anyway, so she actually credited lots of her health and beauty to the pickle itself. That's why she was loved by many and probably also hated by a lot, but that's separate. Anyway, she would eat them regularly, and do you know what? It makes sense because pickles are actually really good for your gut health. So she would have been glowing, and then her secret lover, well, not secret, her lover was inspired by this, Julius Caesar. He was like, wow, there must be something behind it. So do you know what he did? Yeah, well, you're going to. He would give pickles out to the Roman army before they would go and fight because he believed that they made you really strong.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
and
you
like,
can.
I feel like a bit of a fake fan as I used to love Egyptians so much. I still do, but how would a Roman be dating an Egyptian?
Well, I suppose you could get a boat, you could write a letter.
Well, it was a long boat ride.
It was, but
And how would they communicate?
I mean, there was probably like a general language that they understood at the same time, or maybe it was just a bit feisty.
Maybe it was the pickles.
Maybe
Do you think
it was the pickles.
that was the love spell? And maybe they were just like made so attractive by the pickles that they just saw each other and they just jumped on each other. Anyway, I'm getting carried away.
Hannah's got a weird pickle fantasy.
That could have been their love language.
Pickles.
I've just thought about this now. I'm like, why was a Roman and an Egyptian dating?
Well, it gives me faith for my long distance.
So we'll get on to dill pickles in a bit, but an important date to note is AD 900. Now, this is when new trade routes from the east emerged, and then dill was brought over from Sumatra, which is one of the islands in western Indonesia, and it was brought over to Europe. And even though the Greeks and the Romans were actually using it beforehand, the other countries in Europe were like, yeah, we like this a lot. And, you know, pickling was becoming really popular at the time, and well, it had been popular, as we've established, for quite a long time now. And then people were marrying the dill and the pickles together and realizing that it actually, well, it was a marriage, because till today we still have dill pickles. And I don't know why you're laughing, because how else would I describe it? But anyway, AD 900 is when it came along, and why is that funny?
After your whole pickle fetish, now you're marrying them. Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, dill came to other countries in AD 900, and yeah, they loved it, and it's remained ever since, but we'll get onto that later. But just, yeah.
So the next place we're going to head over is actually the oceans. In the late 1400s, transoceanic voyages were becoming more and more popular. Lots of people wanted to explore new lands. It was exciting, it was exhilarating. You could have died, you could have survived, you never know, you could have got scurvy. But anyway, lots of people wanted to go on these voyages, and, you know, pirates, sailors, everyday people. Their ambition was stopped abruptly when they were a couple of weeks in and they ended up with what I said, scurvy. Basically, what scurvy is it's a deficiency of vitamin C. I decided to look it up because I didn't really know what it was, and I was interested, but I shouldn't have because I'm not medically minded and I get grossed out by everything. But basically what would happen is the people, the crew, the captains, they would get really fatigued, they'd be super tired, their gums would start bleeding, their teeth would start loosening, so their teeth could fall out, they would bleed under the skin, they'd just get rashes. It was just not very nice. Nobody wanted that. But you're in the middle of the ocean, you can't just start planting trees for oranges. So the idea came about, what if we start preserving our vegetables? So what captains would do is they would pickle vegetables like cabbage and they would give it out to the crew members. And because they were also eating it, the crew were like, oh, we can get behind this. Like, this must be like a big, good thing. And now also we're going to revisit somebody that we have spoken about in previous episodes, and that is Christopher Columbus. Now, he himself as well was a big advocate for the pickle, because again, it just made sure that his crew was feeling a bit better and a bit brighter, and there were so many other things you're going to be dealing with, like seasickness. You just cancel out what you don't need. Anyway, so he would ration pickles to his crew, and he was so... This was such an important part of their journeys, eating the pickles, that they quite literally stopped in Haiti to grow more for the rest of their expedition.
Oh, wow.
I know. And then on top of that, you had the pickle dealer who Christopher Columbus actually met at one point in Sevilla. I've said that so wrong, sorry, Spanish. Oh, thank you. A guy who me and Hannah think go by the name of Vespucci, but I'm so sorry. That could be... We could have done that wrong. I could have said that wrong. So Italians, correct me in the comments. So this guy, he would often stock up ships before they left the port with preserved meats and preserved vegetables, and he even did it for Christopher Columbus. Crazy. Now we're going to go a bit further into the future, and we're going to New York. Haha, why? Because in the 19th and 20th century, lots of immigrants were flocking over to New York for work prospects, different lifestyle, just all in all good vibes. I don't know if they got it when they got there, but they went there with that intention. And a big part of a population that moved over was the Eastern European Jewish people. And now they took across their pickle with them, their kosher pickle. And now it is quite literally one of the biggest foods in America. Like, Americans love pickle, like probably as much as me and Hannah, if not more. Another thing that was really interesting is in World War II in America, pickles were rationed, and 40% of pickle production actually went to the armed forces.
Wow. So
we did like a little revisit of the Roman times here. It's like, pickles must be so good for you. I started since the new year running 5k basically every single day, apart from when I do Gobs and Goblets, because this is so energy consuming. I've got so much learning to do. But anyway, I've decided now I'm going to eat a pickle every time before I run a 5k.
And why is that?
Well, because people used to do it to get fit. They would eat the pickle and then supposedly make them better.
But why?
Because pickle is like the olden days creatine. Oh. But yes, so I'm going to eat a pickle every time before I go running to see if it improves cramps, strength, nobility, the whole lot. After World War II ended, the Pickle Packers International decided to make an International Pickle Week in dedication to it. But yeah, pickle is the OG...
Who are the Pickle Packers?
I don't ask big man questions like
So do you know something I love about pickles? It's the fact that so many prominent figures in history have got a tie to pickles. So we've talked Cleopatra, we've talked Julius Caesar, we've talked Christopher Columbus. We're now going to talk about Napoleon Bonaparte. So in 1809, Napoleon, he was a big fan of the humble pickle. Mm-hmm. But he also, like Columbus, he wanted to find a way to be able to preserve food for a long time and basically be able to feed his troops when they were out on the ships. So what he did is he set up a little competition to basically find someone who would be better at preserving it. So he was offering 12,000 francs, which at the time was equivalent to $250,000 to find the Donny who could preserve better. So this guy, he was a French cook and confectioner called Nicolas Appert, and what he did is he discovered that if you put the food in a glass jar and you remove all the air before sealing it and then you boil the glass jar, that's going to preserve the food.
With the food in it, you boil it. Once
Yeah.
the glass cracks.
Well, it just apparently must have not cracked because he won the competition.
Some good glass.
We'll get onto the glass though, because glass ended up getting stronger, and I'll get onto that in a sec. But anyway, this meant that not only could fruit and vegetables be preserved, but also things like jellies, syrups, and some dairy products. So
Wow.
he was a very rich man after that. Fast forward a bit later to the 1850s. So there was a Scottish chemist named James Young, and he patented paraffin wax, and paraffin wax basically just made for a better seal on the jars. Fast forward a bit later to 1858, there was a man called John Mason. Now, John Mason was from Philadelphia, and he invented the mason jar.
Oh, wow!
Well, it is wow when you then realise that, anyway, it wasn't fun enough for you apparently,
No,
but
no,
it's
it's
going to
very
be fun for
interesting.
you because he was the Donny who made the glass stronger.
Wow.
So he essentially, basically created a jar that was a strong glass jar. However, he lost his patent in 1879. So people just kept with the name mason jar
Oh, why did you lose it?
because it expired, the patent. A patent is basically like a trademark, right?
They
It's
expire?
like, they can't, and they did, and his did. But
History shows.
But it's amazing that hundreds of years, like, people still call them mason jars, typically more in America to
What do
this
they call them
day.
here?
I thought it was
A
more.
jar.
I just call it a jar, innit?
Okay, yeah.
But the mason jars are usually like the pretty ones. Yeah. So
Thanks, Mason.
I winked today. It's all the excitement from the pickles. Okay. Are you done with the history? Shall I
I'm done
go?
with the
Okay.
history!
Whew, I'm gonna spoil you now. So,
Blimey.
what is pickling? So, pickling is essentially a form of preservation, and it's by doing this either with an acidic solution, either being vinegar or brine. Brine is salt and water. So what both these things have in common is they both have acidic pHs. So the pH is anywhere between 4 to 6, or it can be lower. And when something has an acidic pH, it means it kills off the bacteria.
What do you mean it can be lower?
Lower than 4 than 6. The lower the pH, the more acidic it is. So 7 is alkaline. So it's depends how strong
So
the vinegar
it's 6
is.
and under then.
Yes. I just said that in a very long-rooted way, but yes. Usually between 4 to 6, however, it can be lower.
Yeah, 7's neutral and anything plus 8 is alkaline.
Did just say that, but anyway. So where does the word pickle actually come from? So it actually comes, and whilst you were talking, I did like some mathematics in my head, like the Mesopotamians, and I can't wait to tell you. So, pickle comes from the Dutch word,
Pickle?
peckle,
So close.
or the Northern German word, pokel, or pockle, or, again, our pronunciation isn't good, you know this by now, we are sorry. But these words mean salt or brine, and that's obviously what everything pickling is about, so it makes sense. So then, believe it or not, there are loads of different types of pickles, and it's actually really interesting. So, first off, dill pickles. We talked a bit about dill earlier. Dill and pickles, they're still married, still together, haven't been divorced yet, and I don't think they ever will be. People love them, and the dill helps with the vinegary taste as well. And then dill pickles are usually made with vinegar. Now, you also have sour pickles. Now, sour pickles are not made with vinegar. They are just made with liquid brine, salt water. And what happens here is fermentation. The fermentation process is different. Something that happens is, a bit of science for you now, it's something called lactofermentation. So the word lacto refers to the type of bacteria that's grown on the cucumbers, and also different, not what it does grow, but it's the bacteria that exists on cucumbers and also other fruits and vegetables. So what happens is the bacteria breaks down the sugars in the cucumber, and then this breakdown creates lactic acid, and that creates the fermentation basically.
Wow, and you put that on your face in the morning. Lactic acid?
No. Lactic acid's the thing that's produced in your body like when you don't like run for a while or something.
Oh,
thank you, like salicylic acid or something for your face.
I know what you're talking about.
Salicylic
acid.
Lactic.
But I have a lactic acid from The Ordinary as well.
Do you actually?
I think so, yeah.
I'm curious about that now. Anyway, didn't get that far into the research. Then you also have other pickles. So you have gherkins and you have cornichons. Cornichons? Anyway, something. So funny, she dropped her mic. The mic's back on. So the difference between cornichons and gherkins, only thing, cornichons are just a bit smaller. So cornichons are usually like under 2 inches or 2 inches or under. Sorry. And then finally, there's something called bread and butter pickles. Now, I don't know why they're called bread and butter, but I've made a few. Oh, do you?
Yes. Because they put brown sugar in.
Oh, I didn't read that.
Yeah.
But they do put other things in. Like I saw that they put onions in, green peppers. They can
bread and butter.
Bread and butter pickles are a type of sweet pickle. Usually the ones that you find in your burgers. The reason for this is they're like the round ones that you cut up, like Maddie loves from McDonald's. And they're usually made with other things added. So this can be onions, peppers,
brown sugar,
mustard seeds, whatever. So those are the type of pickles. So as Maddie mentioned earlier, the people of Mesopotamia were basically credited as like the first people to create the pickle. So Sumerians are the people who are from the south of Mesopotamia, the south of southern Mesopotamia, and they used just salt. Well, I'll get on to that. They used salt just to ferment, to pickle the vegetables. So this was like the earliest pickling process essentially. It was just you rub salt. I mean, it's still used today for like meat and stuff and lots of other things. And one of the earliest preservation techniques, we've talked about it in the ketchup episode with garum and the fish. So yeah, you essentially just cover it in salt and what happens is the juices release and then that kills the bacteria. But the Sumerians and Babylonian cultures also used brine. But the brine being salt and water. Mm-hmm. So vinegar, when did vinegar come in? So vinegar has actually been used for many, many, many years. Vinegar was originally like fermented fruits, that's how it was made. And
sorry, that really caught me off guard.
Yeah. And the Romans would sometimes add vinegar, the Greeks as well, so it was being used. However, vinegar really started to pop off like 16th century. Like, there was more production for it. It was, I can't remember by which century, maybe by the 18th century. I think it was like just common in like every single household. It was like vinegar was a staple. And the reason people also preferred putting vinegar in their pickles was because it pickled them quicker.
Yeah.
And you see, as in every episode, we always find like things change because we want things to be faster or quicker. Look at technology nowadays. For them, it was vinegar. I mean,
And as a grandma, you never knew you had.
So one thing that has been historically, I wouldn't even say it's been historically disputed. Like, that's a bit dramatic. But, what is the ratio for salt to water in this brine? Like, how much salt are you supposed to put? So it actually depends on a few factors. So for example, back in the day, if you were to do this in a warmer climate, you were going to add more salt because obviously fridges didn't exist back then and you don't want the thing to spoil. So, and it's going to be out in the sun. So you would add more salt if you were in a hotter country. It also depends what type of vegetable you're working with. So if you're working with like a root vegetable, like a cabbage, for example, something a bit denser, you need to add more salt again to make sure that the preservation actually happens. So with cucumbers and pickles, you actually require less salt. But the general rule of thumb is between 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of salt for every 4 cups of water. That's your general rule of thumb. But yeah, factors are always going to depend on what vegetable you're working with. And obviously now we have fridges, but if you didn't have a fridge, how hot it is wherever you are.
We also live in a freezing country, so we don't need very much.
We're fine. So obviously preserving food back in the day was essentially about survival and making sure things didn't go to waste. And said you had, a really bad crop season, that way you could preserve things. So, you know, for example, the Jewish communities, when they migrated to Eastern Europe, in the freezing months, this could have been a possibility that happened. So you would do things like pickles, and pickles became so big in Eastern Europe, also in Jewish communities. They brought them over to New York. There's so much we could tell you, is the honest truth. But pickles were for survival, essentially. They were keeping people alive.
But it kind of makes sense because, like, if I'm sad, like, I will eat a whole jar of pickled garlic. And
yeah, she bought, that reminds me, you bought a huge...
Sorry, my nose has been so itchy for the past, like, 2 minutes.
Thank you. She bought a jar of pickled garlic on New Year's Eve of 2023? The evening into 2024. Yeah, and we were just eating it, and it was really good, actually.
It's incredible.
Garlic. It's my cup of the night. Cup of the night, garlic.
Yeah, like, especially by the 16th century, people were really experimenting. They were, you know, flavouring them in different ways. You got mustard seeds, dill, cloves, cardamom. Like, people were going crazy. And obviously, like, vinegar was popping off. People even started flavouring the vinegar. So, like, people just, you know, it went from this thing of, like, this is crucial for survival to then, let's go a bit crazy. Even now, look, in modern day, we're eating pickles with the fruit roll-up.
Oh my gosh, TikTok.
The tahine, yeah.
I've tried it. Incredible stuff with some Takis.
You did try it?
Yes, I did try it.
When was this?
Like 2 years ago.
Oh, you were early?
Yeah, but I didn't try it with the fruit roll-up. I just had the Takis and the pickle.
Yeah.
I wasn't really fussed about the tahine or the fruit
enough.
roll-up. But it was so good. I love Takis. Takis,
They are
whatever you call them.
nice. So yeah, so what recipe did we do for you today? So today, do you know what? We were like, what should we do? Like, there's like 4,000 different types of one. There's not like a specific one. Again, salt to water ratio. It depended you know what I mean? It was a lot we could have picked. Well, we've decided to pick possibly the most boring recipe, I am sorry, but I am really curious to see how it tasted. So just the brine, just salt, water, and pickles.
We copped out again.
I'm joking. We're joking. No. I wanted to see how our good old Mesopotamians were enjoying it back in the day. Because also, I want to try the flavour. Like, when I think saltwater pickles, but I'm like, well, they're fermenting. And there's, like, chemical processes happening in there. And I want to try it. I do. So, yeah. So, what you will need for this recipe is...
Steady on here, you're gonna get a notepad and pen.
Some cucumber, and then, you know, like we said, should we try half a cup of salt?
Yeah.
Half a cup of salt to 4 cups of water. So, you know, depending how much you're gonna make, you're kind of just gonna have to, I say just make enough water that all your cucumber, when you put it in the jar, is going to be fully submerged. So yeah, heat up the water, add your salt, continue stirring that till she dissolves. And then you're going to add your sliced cucumbers, or they can be whole if you have little small ones, completely up to you. Or you can slice them and go nuts, do what you like. You might even get little heart shapes if you like, I don't know. Anyway, you're going to pour your boiling hot brine over the cucumbers, seal it tight, and then you're going to let it basically ferment, lacto-ferment, do its beauty, 1 or 2 days outside in room temperature, and then you move it to the fridge, and you can keep it in the fridge for however long.
Wow.
So there's
I'm
your
looking
recipe.
forward to this.
We're going to try this at some point. Obviously not today because...
It takes a couple of days to get the process. And I think the longer you leave it, the juicier they get, the better they taste.
I imagine.
Like, do you know what I mean? Although fresh ones might be really nice. Like, I'd like a little bit of crunch there still.
You'd like a bit of what?
Crunch. Like a bit of a crunchy pickle.
There are tips to like make a crunchier pickle,
right,
but I don't know.
Mate.
Well, no, because I don't know when they historically came about, and I don't think it was very... I'm just thinking things now.
Hello everyone. So as you can see, it's me, myself and I. I've just come back from work. I am very ill, hence the state and the sound of me, so I'm sorry to our audio listeners and our video watchers. Anyway, Maddie's living it up in Portugal, and I'm here, so it will just be me trying our lovely pickles, as Maddie isn't here, unfortunately. And yeah, I can't lie, I forgot about the pickles. after 3 days, I went, like I said to the person I live with, I said, where are the pickles? They were like, oh, here. So I was like, thank God. So then I put them in the fridge. And I really don't know what this is going to be like. I'm very apprehensive. I also can't really taste. So let's just see. Let's see. Okay, right. So this is what they look like. They're not moulding. I thought, thank God for that. I can't open them. Oh my God. Let's see if I'm... Oh dear, I should have thought about this. Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay. This is the inside. I shouldn't have done that. Right. Oh, the washing machine's going. Oh, it's all going on, isn't it? Right, okay. I'm really apprehensive. It's just a pickle. Okay, let's see smell. Well, I can't smell anything. That wasn't very handy, was it? They don't smell of anything. Right. Cheers. Not my iPhone storage being full as soon as I tried them. I've had to now go try something else. They're just really salty. They're just salt. Like, it's a pickle, but I'm not getting any of that like kind of vinegary flavour. It's just salt. And I'm not a big salt fan, so yeah. In the future, would I mix with a bit of vinegar? Maybe. Yeah, anyway. Thank you so much for tuning in. And hopefully we see you next week. Bye-bye.